Hey everyone, welcome to another Raptors Public podcast. This one hosted by myself, Samson Folk, and also hosted, I should say, co-hosted by myself and Louis Zatzman. This is a new thing. It's happening twice a month. It is bi-weekly on Saturdays. Sometimes it'll be recorded ahead of time. Sometimes it'll be live. But it'll be myself and Louis kind of diving deep on things and scratching the interest that we're picking up on throughout the season. We will be workshopping names for the podcast at the back end. We'll be asking the listeners, the live viewers, to help us with that. And Louis, we're talking Raptors preseason. We're going to enjoy this conversation. We have a couple things we're going to nail down on. But I guess, firstly, if you could summarize Raptors preseason, how would that go for you?
Yeah, I was hoping to have my mind changed about the season. I had expectations based on last year plus off season, and I think those expectations are more or less exactly the same. What I saw is what I expected to see, the good and the bad. Maybe a touch more negative than I expected, but by and large, I don't think my mind was changed. How about you? What did you take from preseason? Was it positive? Was your mind changed about anything?
Honestly, I don't find that I talk a lot. I'm more interested in your perception, like your perception here, your perspective. You said you were more negative. So just to set the scene, for listeners, the Raptors finish 4-2 in a 6-game preseason. It's very long. A lot of teams play
Mhm.
4, 6. I think it's probably the Raptors trying to acquiesce to demand of a game in Canada, plus also having some at home and having to do a certain amount of away games, surely. And those deals are like part and parcel of one another. Let's say if they play the Wizards in Montreal last year, they play the Wizards in Washington too, stuff like that. They played a lot for a preseason game, and they also, S just messaged me asking where your mic is, Louis. That's hilarious. Anyway, we're talking basketball. Why are you more negative on this team? They're 4-2 in a preseason. They struggled offensively. They played a lot in transition. Take me away.
Well, you said it. They struggled offensively. I was hoping that Brandon Ingram, we talked about this, would shift everyone into roles into which they were suited or perhaps even overqualified. I don't think that happened in the half court. I think the scoring that they did have, and obviously we'll get into some of the numbers later, were very buoyed by transition. That stuff is less sustainable, in the regular season and the preseason. Certainly less sustainable in the playoffs and the regular season. That's good, but it's not something you can count on. Not in the same way as, say, a pick and roll. And so I think the offense is more of a question mark than I was hoping to see coming out of preseason.
I agree with you in the sense that I still have optimism for it, and preseason is just so that's sometimes it really is guys messing around. I think we saw our fair share of that. However, even above that, we're looking at a team that was really poor out of the pick and roll. We're looking at a team that was also struggling a lot as far as it goes, running a lot of their favorite actions. And when it comes to the team saying, like, for example, Bobby last year, not last year, I'm thinking of,
Sorry.
anyway, so basically, the team is struggling offensively. The team, they shot well on catch and shoot threes. The team, they drove the ball a lot. The team is still, however, looking for efficiency out of plays that they weren't getting last season. They didn't have a lot of Jakob Poeltl. What they did have was Brandon Ingram, who was actually quite strong in his quote unquote play types. What they did have was Grady Dick shoot well from three. They had RJ and Brandon both shot exceptionally well from three. But every other thing that was supposed to get better by the rearranging of hierarchy still struggled. Why do
Yeah.
you think that is, and where are the big worry points for you?
Well, I want to talk about the 3-point shooting first, and then I'll answer your question. They had 5 rotation guys shoot 40% or better from three. Like, a lot of viewers, fans, analysts, media would have expected something like that would solve their problems, right? Ingram, Barrett, Dick, Quickly, Battle. I don't know if he's rotation or not, but those guys all shot 40% or better from three. That didn't solve their offensive problems at all, which speaks to three-point shooting in many ways being an output of good offense rather than an input. It's something that we've sort of known for a long time. So what is actually causing this, to answer your question? They still don't have lead guard play that NBA teams need to be a good half-court offense. And this is something that I was hoping to dive into you with. I don't know, I wrote a piece earlier in preseason that ended up, I thought, being very topical based on last night as well, Toronto's final preseason game, where Quickly didn't improve at the things that he was good at, as far as I can tell so far. Obviously, we don't know for sure yet. We'll find out. It's all very up in the air. But, playing in the middle of the floor, driving, finishing, creating for teammates, forcing rotations, running the pick and roll. Those are all things you need from a point guard. Those are all things that Quickly is not up to standard for a starting NBA point guard. And I don't think he got better at them. He just did them way less. He hunted more threes. He got open more. His defense was much improved. And so I wrote a piece about, he got better not by improving, but by just doing the things he's not as bad at, right? You go to the doctor, they can give you medicine for your elbow, or they can say, well, just don't move your elbow that way. It won't hurt. He stopped moving his elbow that way. Is that good enough, right? Do you think Quickly just not doing the things he is subpar at is enough for this offense to be what it needs to be in the half court?
Well, this offense has to be extremely particular in the way that it structures. Like, as much as I think they want to be a team that their starting five has talent and has guys, they have to be very specific about how they structure all the plays. Like when they run a down screen or they run like horns out with Ingram and Scotty in the screener positions, and they're using it to get Ingram stacked on the weak side as a secondary rim protector, a secondary creator, and then they're also looking for a screen between Quickly and Scotty so that Scotty can have roll gravity and the ball can go to Brandon Ingram. Like, that is a play to contrive opportunity for Brandon without giving the defense an opportunity to like load up at the front end and move the ball out of his hands, for example. Now, Quickly, just for reference, he shot 0 for 11, 0 for 11 as a pick and roll ball handler in the preseason. When it came to his passes out of the pick and roll, the team shot 7 of 12. That's good. That's nice. A little bit of three-point shooting. When he split downhill and the ball sprays to the corner, it looks good. But not all defenses are lackadaisical enough to step up as far as they did on him on that play and then allow him a seam right to the middle. He struggled. Now, Ingram also struggled to create over the pick and roll by the numbers. But when I watched all of the plays back, I saw a guy who was creating good looks, and that I would expect some more of those three-point shots he passed out to go down. And he didn't shoot as well from the mid-range as he might in the future. And I look at Ingram and I say, this guy is a proven pick-and-roll creator, and it makes sense. The numbers weren't good. And Quickly, I look at it and say, he's not a proven pick-and-roll creator. The numbers didn't look good, and I don't know where I'm looking for optimism there. I don't know where I'm looking for optimism from Quickly as a lead guard, is the true answer.
Will Ingram running 30 pick and rolls a night, 20 pick and rolls a night, will that fix things? Is that what you want? Is that, yeah. So that's the point then, right? Then you're left with questions about a half-court offense.
Just to the point I was making about how if Ingram is the first action with a pick and roll, the defenses are pretty good at moving the ball out of his hands. But the Raptors had 3 good play types in the preseason relative to NBA. Like, they're better than a lot of other teams at this. Off-screen plays, handoff plays, post-up plays. Maybe the best play they were running this whole preseason was probably stacking the strong side with a decoy play and then running Ingram off of a pin down and letting him work on an empty side. That way, there's not a lot of help defenders. That way, he's able to work. That way, all that stuff is available to happen. Handoff plays, it functions similarly, and post up plays. Ingram was quite strong in the post up.
Yeah.
The Ingram has been good. Ingram has been doing it, but he doesn't step onto the floor as a ball handler and solve their spacing questions, and he certainly doesn't solve how defenses want to guard him immediately.
So let's set aside what we want from Quickley. If this is who he is, does that just mean the Raptors need another point guard? Like he's a shooting guard, or like basically how New York used him?
Well, you're asking a question that is just like, do you restructure we've watched 6 preseason games, and this question asks, like, do we restructure the whole roster? Because
Yes.
the roster was made in part with expectations of Quickley being a different player than he had been, than he was, and then he is. And you have to ask yourself, like, I'll ask you, if Quickley is an elite guard, do the Raptors have what it takes on the roster between Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes to create offense at a passable level in the half court?
If they run as much as they did, like the hit-ahead passes were incredible. Grady, RJ, if they get out in transition as much as they did, then a mediocre half-court offense, a bad half-court offense, can be livable.
Yep.
You know, there's ways to survive and work around it, but I mean, I think no, right? The answer is just no. Like you asked just half-court offense.
Yeah, well, because they were the second highest volume transition team in preseason. They want to play fast. They want to hit head. You know, the Raptors with Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and Scotty Barnes, like they were as high as the 14th ranked offense overall because they played a lot in transition. They were bottom 10 in the half court, but they still played enough in transition. And particularly Pascal has always been like 90th percentile and above as far as efficiency as a transition finisher. And they had more of, like, Fred is a better lead guard by some measure than Quickley at setting the table, at creating dependable looks out of the pick and roll. The big question with these Raptors and what Ingram was supposed to help solve is that he raises the floor of their half-court offense, and everyone else on the roster is doing everything they're supposed to do in simple roles, and everyone has a little bit more energy for defense, and then the defense is as good as it was advertised to be, or around there as it was the back third of the season. Does any of that strike you as true so far?
So eye test, maybe not, but some of the numbers are actually quite positive. Like on court offensive rating, I know so few minutes. They actually didn't even track every game. So it's extremely sketchy, but Brandon Ingram has the highest among all players on the team. That is believable. That makes sense, right? Number 2 among real rotation guys, Grady Dick. I think he was exceptional on that end in terms of forcing rotations and choices from the defense in ways that a lot of players don't. So can Ingram raise the boat? Maybe. Like he was clearly going 60%. He wasn't playing a lot of minutes. He was taking fewer shots with a lower usage than I think he will. I think he will need to do more than he did in preseason. I think he can. And so our hopes probably depend. And this is another thing that I thought Ingram was sort of the key determinant of this Raptors season before preseason. And that's something I believe completely after preseason as well.
Yeah. This is an interesting point from Cosmo. Says IQ trade/signing is a microcosm of how this FO hasn't really been good at identifying fluff in player stats/reputation. Same error made with GTJ. So just to IQ is at the head of this offense. He leads them in drives. I haven't looked at the touch time or touches, but he's probably, if not at the top, right near the top. his potential assists and assist percentage are both sky high. So
Yep.
there's all these numbers that direct you towards like this guy touches it and quote unquote creates for others. But he has no play type that says he's creating well. The
Yeah.
points per possession and everything he's doing doesn't say, okay, this is going well. But the rate stats say like, oh, well, he gives a lot of assist opportunities. And that means to me that the structure of the offense is creating a lot of the opportunities. And then, as you said, it makes very clear sense that guys who operate well out of structure, a Grady Dick coming off of a screen, making the defense make decisions, driving the ball, shooting the ball, whatever, is going to create better outcomes. And then Brandon Ingram, with his tremendous skill and all-star level offense, is going to be a guy who thrives or at least survives no matter what. The real question is, Scotty against, the Nets, who aren't good, and preseason not good, but it was nice to see him not play terribly because he was truly terrible through the first, his first 4 games of preseason or 3. Where does he go? Because this is a guy who has never been like a very strong offensive player in terms of any statistic. You can't point to one, but his year 3 got put in a lot of ball screens as a ball handler with guards, got put in a lot of positions to catch and go, also attacked on the glass, and found his way to big numbers on slightly above average efficiency, let's say, or maybe average efficiency. He is a good finisher. He is a guy who, if used properly, if not asked to take a bunch of pull-up shots, should find his way to a decent outcome and should make defenses consider him. Where do you put him? How does he fit? It was awkward.
Well, off-ball forwards need to hit guys when they screen. Off-ball forwards, it helps when they shoot, Off-ball forwards need to be really effective cutters, which he definitely is. Like, there's no question about that. There's just a lot of skills that he's exceptional at with the ball in his hands, except for pull-up shooting. And there's a lot of skills that he is exceptional at without the ball in his hands, but none of them seem to point towards one thing in particular where it's like, oh, put him here. It's like, okay, put him in the dunker spot and he'll be a finisher. Sure, he'd be great, but you can get way more out of him. So, run him as the screener. It's like, okay, where does Pirtle go? And Scotty slips every screen. Like, I think you told me he had 0 contact on his screens.
And by the way, so that's a stat that Synergy is tracking. That's not guaranteed to be correct, but Synergy had him at no contact. And when I went and watched, like, Scotty, he can technically be making contact, but he's putting 2 hands on the guy's hips and pushing off to create the slip into the lane. But Scotty is not, especially on ball screens, is not putting a body on guys.
No contact
He's not screening.
Yeah. And so, or if you put him on ball, he's just not getting hips past guys. He's not forcing rotations. He's hitting the paint. He's hitting the paint really well, but there's nothing actually changing in the defensive core as a result of it. And so what do you want him to be? Do you want him to be an 8 floater a night guy? Do you want him to be a dunker spot finisher? It's just, the answer is you need him to be all of the above, right? You need him to run Iverson cuts, catch on the move. You need him to run zoom action, catch on the move. You need him to screen in zoom action. You need but that's really tough. That requires a point guard who really knows the flow of the game, positions guys properly. We saw that against Brooklyn. Against Brooklyn, we saw really clean usage. It's like calling a bullpen game as a manager, right? You really need your finger on the pulse of what is happening when. It could be exceptional, but it doesn't come easily. I think that's what we're looking at right now in terms of where Scotty's offensive half-court success will come from. I am so far from out. I think he has a ton of value to offer, but none of it's just going to be natural without doing anything for him with the structure and flow of the offense itself.
Yeah. Banana Boat says he's also our best defender. Yes, we will discuss Scotty in more everything, but we're discussing the offensive side right now. And Scotty, the interesting thing between like RJ and Scotty, right, is that Scotty is a guy who's trying to find his usage,
Yeah.
and the Raptors should be able to use him. And RJ is a guy who always finds his usage, and the Raptors don't have to worry about using him. However, then if you want to discuss, it gets on the other side of the floor. But when Darko compliments RJ, for example, and says, you don't have to call any plays, when Brandon says he attracts the ball, when RJ shoots but he shot really well from three in the preseason, and a lot of them
Yeah.
on above the break triples.
50%.
Yeah, 50%. RJ was great at forming up. RJ did a lot of great things to find his own usage. But here's the thing, right? It goes back to Scotty not setting or not planting screens. Ingram doesn't plant screens. Nobody really plants screens on this team. The Raptors have no viable option to threaten out of the pick and roll.
Mhm.
Quickly doesn't do it. Ingram can do it, but is getting a lot of his possessions nullified and they make him pass the ball out. Scotty isn't doing it. RJ is a guy who can get downhill, but the stats have said for a long time that he's much better when he attracts attention and passes out. He's been a good passer there, but he's always overmatched as a finisher because of, there's a real lack of vertical pop there.
Mhm.
They don't have a guy who can get downhill easily, and they don't have bigs outside of Jakob Poeltl who want to assist players in getting downhill. They're in a quandary of sorts. And the only way to do this, to beat this, is through very specific actions. The Raptors, when it was Pascal and OG and Scotty and Darko's first year, they started to really get on fire with the offensive process. And it was because there was a lot of side screening, a lot of cross screening, a lot of like the first action is a decoy to get the defense to step up, but we're going to carve out space on the inside. And they just needed their wings to shoot the ball better. The Raptors need that same thing happening. It's just not happening at all.
Yeah. One thing I'm actually really positive on in terms of possible solutions, obviously nothing's a panacea, if that's how you pronounce that.
Panache.
Pancreas. But one thing that I think really helped around the edges was Colin Murray-Boyles. His offensive sense of flow was incredible. He made really rapid decisions. His need for the blind pig handoff, just for anyone who doesn't know what I mean, like that empty corner, like where he catches and someone's leaning off him and he just instantly turns into a handoff with a shooter where there's no one else around them. So because his defender's sagging off, the shooter will have space running around that handle. He's just always looking for that, which is really good. And he just, I think in small ways, is really able to determine good flow from set to set, action to action, in a way that you don't expect from poor shooters. But shooting kind of has nothing to do with that. Like you think of spacing in terms of, oh, well, yeah, are they drawing the defense? Are they hitting shots? But spacing is not the only way to transition between elements of an offense. And I think Murray-Boyles did phenomenally with that. And in fact, he was finding himself defensively in preseason before he hurt his elbow. But offensively, the team was actually at its best. I said the on-court net rating or offensive rating was best among rotation guys. Obviously, it's only, 1 game, 2 games for Murray-Boyles? 3 games. But he actually had the highest of all. So I didn't include it because it was low minutes, 3 games. But his offensive on-court rating was top of the team.
There's basically it's the Domantas Sabonis thing where if you're not going to justify as the screener, you have no gravity as a shooter. So that means that the big is going to play and step out of it, step back. It means that if you're willing to screen, if you are going to be good at screening, you can plant it, you can roll, and you can keep a guy on your hip, you actually can grant your ball handler oodles of space, mountains of space. You can create 2-on-1 possessions if you can handle your man on an island with the screen. And CMB is a guy who moves rapidly between actions. makes progressive reads as a guy running delay action, attacks the offensive glass, attacks closeouts, even if he gets a short closeout. The drive on Xavier Tillman, who didn't even clear the 3-point line, is a good example of that. CMB plays to himself, and he greases the wheels offensively. I know it might sound disrespectful, maybe a bit, because Scotty's been an all-star, but Scotty, I would love to see him get his pick and roll possessions. Of course, when you have guys like Grady and IQ on the floor and you let him as an upright dribbler scan the floor and make passes, and if the teams play over, then he'll get to waltz into the lane and put pressure on the rim. But if teams are switching and stuff like that, he needs to pass. He can get on-ball possessions, but I would love to see him. It's not a demotion. It's basketball. I would love to see him firing through reads as a delay action handler. I would love to see him planting screens and dominating with physicality. And I would love to see him gluing one side of the floor to the other with him roaming in the middle to finish plays. I would love that. And we saw that in the last game of preseason. We saw basically none of that prior. It would benefit the offense greatly. And this goes into conversation we've had so many times, but it's like, you know, for the betterment of the players on the roster, Scotty has to do something that's more like role player stuff, because the guys around him outside of Brandon Ingram don't really elevate his offensive game, there's a lot of conflicting things here with this team.
It's low-hanging fruit. It's not glamorous, but it's important.
We have a $10 donation from Kareem Kelly. Thank you. That says, great work. 2 questions. 1, do you believe RJ will be second in scoring if he stays the whole season? 2, is there a reason it seems like the Raptors don't like true bigs? This is, thank you once again, of course. We'll talk about RJ, because RJ is a guy who adapted perfectly. We did the, asking Scotty to do things. RJ does things. RJ, quote unquote, actually, I think RJ, as far as the shots he took, the things he did, played almost perfect offensive basketball. Run the lane in transition. Try and pressure the rim on a team that really needs you to do it. Make the extra pass and hit above the break threes to benefit guys who need you to release the pressure on them. He did all of that. It's just that he shot poorly at the rim. RJ Barrett. Louis, do you believe he'll be second in scoring on this team if he stays the whole season?
I believe no. I mean, he took 11, 12 shots a game. I think he'll end up higher than that. His efficiency was solid, despite the rim with the 3-point shooting. I mean, his true shooting percentage was like
58, 59.
Yeah. It was, what is it? I have it right here. 56.
But he's not going to shoot 50% from 3.
And he's not going to miss everything at the rim either. So I think that's not a crazy expectation, 56, 57. But if you do the math, that adds up a couple more shots to 17, 18 a game. I don't think that'll be second on the team. I think, transition-wise with Scotty, I think being much more of the hit-ahead passer and the rebounder. He led the team in defensive rebounding percentage. RJ is going to handle a lot in transition. He was top 5 last year in transition scoring. He should be again this year. Despite all of that, I just can't see a world where Scotty and BI don't have more points. I just think there's more pathways to points for Scotty. Do you disagree? Am I underrating where or overrating where those points will come from?
So I agree with your you're projecting how it fits. I just do want to say he shot 53% at the rim in preseason. He shot 55% on the whole last season. So RJ, I was very hopeful, extremely so, when he came over to the Raptors and he shot over 60% at the rim. When he got traded. And then I thought last year he was overextended, and I was hoping that, more cutting, more opportunities to attack off the attack, catch and go stuff. And when teams overload on a side, he wouldn't have to navigate a rim protector as often because he can typically
Yeah.
beat the man on his hip.
Mhm.
But there's been a lot more rim protectors there waiting for him. And that's been tough for him to navigate. And because we spent the first like 20 minutes discussing how the Raptors have added more offensive talent but aren't really sure how they're going to use it, which doesn't mean they won't figure it out, but it's very much a question. I don't know if RJ's rim finishing is going to improve immeasurably if things stay static, if you know what I mean.
Okay. So you agree then that even if he does get up to 17, 18 on this season, he's not second on the team?
Probably not. I just the function of the team won't allow for it, I don't think. Because
Yeah.
while RJ is going to do things, he's going to play a certain way. The Raptors got the information they wanted last year about like, okay, how much does like number one option RJ get? What does that look like? And they also got them from Scotty. And the answer for both was like, well, really bad. However, Scotty is probably a more natural play finisher because of his size, and the Raptors want to mine those types of points. And they probably want RJ to be more of a facilitator, a transition scorer. And if he shoots, I mean, he's a 38% catch and shoot 3-point shooter as a Raptor across both seasons.
Yeah.
Scotty's probably going to get more of the ball, and it's
Yep.
Scotty. That's probably just how it's going to be. That's
I
just,
agree.
it's tough to see it that way. The question number 2 was, is there a reason it seems like the Raptors don't like true bigs? I know this has been a fascination of yours, kind of poking around on this stuff. So let me know what you think about this true big situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I did write a piece once about 7-footers coming back. I think the big experiment ended years ago. They waited a while to find the big they wanted. They wanted Pirtle. They paid for Pirtle. They've been trying to find big since. They keep getting crazy, outrageous circumstances that take the bigs they've got off the team. I think I saw a comment. I agree completely in answer to that question. I mean, Koloko was a traditional big that health circumstances meant they didn't keep him around. They just had the same with Shamshi, another traditional big. We don't know all the details of that story, but that's what I've seen reported from Blake and Michael Grange. You know, he has to go to the NBA's panel for health to return to play. The Jonte Porter gamblings, they're trying to get bigs. It's just it's hard out there when your bigs keep, by different circumstances, being forced off the roster. Pirtle's good. Pirtle's a really good traditional big. He helps guys. I think eventually they will have a backup big who's a traditional big too.
I also I think that Pirtle, we didn't see much of him in this preseason, obviously. It's imperative that he's healthy because probably what's going to happen is that when the Raptors were good offensively, when things were running well with Scotty, OG, and Pascal, Pirtle was actually making a lot of entry passes.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to use him. The Raptors being good off of screens, off of handoffs, and off of post-ups is a testament to what happened last year, where they were the worst on the ball creating team in the NBA. This is a team that is limited in their on ball stuff. Darko has to do a lot of wizardry with the pen. He has to put guys in the right places. And Jakob is a great connective piece. In the same way we were, or I was at least whinging about Scotty's usage and, hey, why not do some of this stuff? Martial Arts Fights says, how do you get Scotty more transition buckets through preseason? Usually he's closer to the basket, rebounding and passing it ahead. RJ is the one running out ahead. I think that's why he'll be second. While I disagree that RJ will be second in scoring, this is also so Scotty was 18th percentile per synergy in transition scoring last year. That number doesn't account for playmaking, of course.
Yeah.
So it doesn't capture the full thing. He's had years where he's been like a middle of the road transition scorer, and he's been really, really strong because when you combine his hit ahead, his playmaking, but that's not captured in synergy stats. How do you get him more transition buckets? You get a guy who rebounds better than him and you let him be an outlet, but that is not being met. So for now, Scotty's transition volume and numbers are always, or the volume and efficiency is always going to be lower because he has to play the trail position a lot of times. And he doesn't shoot the three well. So he's not going to get those shots, and he'll get less attempts at the rim. And last year he was doing some jackassery where he was pulling up from like 11 feet in transition sometimes. I don't know how you, bridge that gap without really sorting out the his usage. ND also says the best player in the world is Jokic, and he is one of the best in screening, offensive rebounding, and obviously delay reads. Yep. There's nothing bad about being a guy who greases some wheels.
I think we missed a donation from Cosmo.
Oh, Cosmo.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. But a really fun question that I think we're sort of teasing at right now. What 5-man lineup do you guys think will have the best net rating? And this, I think, gets into a couple of the elements we've been discussing. I think Grady Dick will be in their best 5-man lineup. I just think we've talked about a lot of half-court weaknesses. In the preseason, I was so high on what I saw out of Dick's half-court offensive value in terms of what he changed. And I really think that he'll be somewhere there. I think it'll be the 4 other starters. Does that mean instead of RJ, you lose almost all your paint touches? It's hard to find how that works. But I think Dick will be in that 5-man unit. I can't hear you right now.
I don't know if I agree. I keep accidentally muting. It is touch. It's a touch. I've complained about this before. Anyway, this is a good question, Cosmo, but it's a really tough question to answer, firstly.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Grady is going to be in there just because of the defensive stuff. I do agree with you that he is going to really help the offensive process. There was a comment from, I think it's B-Ball Archives on Twitter, up in the chat, was saying that the Raptors' rim frequency is 6% higher with Grady on the floor. To explain this, Grady opens up gaps for players. He makes it so that there's less help on drives. And Grady also throws himself at the rim, man. He really does. Grady can really assist these. When you look at the shots that RJ Barrett was hitting, for example, above the break, release valve, Brandon Ingram is seeing 2 bodies. Who's in a great position to punish that? Grady Dick. Okay,
Yep.
If it's Grady Dick, that probably means that it's not just sending 2, but that side is probably overloaded like crazy. That means Brandon Ingram probably has to skip pass, and you get to work some like 2-on-1 and 3-on-1 situations working from the weak side just because of Grady's presence, not even because of what he actually does. If Grady shoots the ball this year, it's going to be great. And his numbers in preseason were 50% from the floor, 39% from 3. It was, really great true shooting. And he shot 10 of 12 at the rim. Mm-hmm. 10 of 12 is pretty good. Big fan of it myself.
Transition.
Yes, he was also, is about 66% was in transition, or actually less than that. He was 4 of 5 at the rim in the half court as well, which is important. And if you take into, I know training camp is kind of like everyone gasses everything, but all the guys said that Grady's finishing was better with the extra oomph on. Grady is a very interesting piece of this puzzle. I actually want to take it to the big man, Sandro Mamukelashvili. He was a huge positive. And to get into the basketball theory of it, right? Sandro was so positive because of his skill set, not even necessarily because of the outcome. Sandro helped the Raptors do a million things. He shot 2 of 16 on spot-up threes during the preseason. 2 of 16. That is horrific. That's terrible.
Yep.
But his skill set and the way he's guarded opened things up for other guys, and his ability to play make a little bit. And to me, he looks like, and I wondered about this right after he got signed, after not seeing much, but he looks like one of the best driving front court players in the NBA, especially off a closeout. What do you make of Sandro in the NBA? Wow. How many front court guys drive? And like one of the best is like, what? Can you give me top 10.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
Jaren Jackson Jr. is a sight better, of course. But Sandro is composed. He's very fast. He's very
Yep.
balanced. And he's a great finisher at the rim.
Yep.
Especially as a big man attack, like a big just stepped out on him. So he drives. Who's at the rim? You know, there's all this stuff. But yeah, Sandro.
He does things with the space that he creates. You know, the Raptors have had guys they've tried to space the floor with from the center spot. You know, Kelly Olynyk, right? Kelly Olynyk did a lot of positive things, but his driving was miles behind, literally behind, because he was so much slower than compared to Mamu, right? It just like he creates that space, but if you're not going to do something immediately with it, what does it really matter when you get the touch, when you pop after a screen, for example? And Sandro was doing stuff with that space. He was driving into it. He was pass faking and driving. He just, because of that driving capability, that's when you're able to chain skills together. You know, shooting and driving and finishing, right? They're more than the sum of their parts in combination on a role player. He will really help Scotty Barnes, I think.
Yep. Also, just to add some numbers to this, so the Raptors, because of the type of help they're seeing, right? They were 27th in the NBA in the preseason in generating help on drives. So even though they were top 10 in driving rim volume, so they're driving a lot, but they're not seeing a lot of help. That means when you do see help, you really have to make teams pay for it. That's where Sandro and Grady, more than anyone else, have been incredibly important. And they were 22nd in at-rim efficiency, went on drives. They were dead last in efficiency on floaters on drives. They were top 15 in volume, though. And they were top 5 in efficiency when they were shooting threes out of driving passes. So some things are happening here. When they pass out of drives, typically it ends up being pretty good because they can't create the big advantage on drives. So they play out of small advantage, creates bigger advantage. Quick decision making, step towards the bucket. Two guys who make really quick decisions, who are not afraid to shoot immediately or put the ball down and do something with it. Grady and Sandro. Anybody else who operates with a little bit of hesitancy, guys like Jacoby, for example, you see that go way down. You see it's a whole bunch of trouble. Is there anything else offensively we should be discussing before we discuss probably the other side of the court, the defense?
Yeah. You know, it feels like we are potentially more negative, I guess. Like we talked about the Raptors a couple times in the offseason. We obviously had our big end of season recap. Like it felt like maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, if we were going to predict Toronto's, rank offensively, it would have been, I don't know, 16th, 17th.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like now we're aiming 20th, 22nd. Is that a reasonable descriptor of where we're at?
I still feel like they won't be in the bottom third. They're going to play enough in transition. Also, a meaningful thing that happened was that they were passable in transition efficiency. That's a big step up because they were actually really bad in their efficiency last year.
So I actually think that was really, because I was thinking about that number, and they had a lot of pick sixes, like enough open court strips that their number of uncontested dunks and layups in transition, I actually think would have shifted their efficiency there to a meaningful extent.
Potentially, right?
And that's not sustainable. That actually means that the average might be a little bit of fool's gold there.
It depends because they're currently doing a trade-off. Like their defense was worse because they press so much. And the pick sixes are part of the, like, why else are you bringing Sandro as the third man in your full court press? Why else are you bringing, Scotty 80 feet up the court as the third man if you're not trying to blitz the ball and have them try and make a cross-court pass to beat and then jump it. Like that's their intention. So that's baked into it,
Yeah.
and it's part of the calculus. The interesting thing, to shift it all the way to defense, is that they were much better defensively when they didn't blitz in the backcourt.
Yeah.
They were much better when they had a guy like Ochai or Jacoby who was able to go under a screen and keep pressuring the ball and just apply pressure without blitzing. And there's a pretty big difference between there. And a blitz, when it gets beat, means it's a lot of players running fast towards the rim, 2 or 3, one of them with the ball in his hand. It means a rotation from the back line against guys sprinting. It means corner threes are open. That's what happens when your full court press breaks down. And the Raptors did not succeed when they were full court blitzing. They did, however, do okay when they pressed and released, just applying that pressure, maybe moving the ball out of the primary ball handler's hands, and then, making the offense start their set from a different place on the floor. That was successful. What do you make of the helter-skelter stuff?
They're clearly trying to buy offense by selling their defense, which is not, so much of what Darko has innovated towards was already something that Nick Nurse was trying to do. Now, his wasn't from this exact defensive strategy, but they were digging deeper from the corner than other NBA teams at the time under Nick Nurse. They gave up a ton of corner threes, but they got a lot of steals in the middle of the court on drives as a result. It's the same thing. You're trading defensive, sacrifices, efficiency for opponent shots in exchange for juicing your offense, right? Transition attempts. And that's what they're doing here. I thought you're not going to say, Chucky, take us home in the regular season. Like, I don't know. I think that's the type of thing. It's like, cool. It looks great in summer league. It looks okay in preseason. They played a lot of non-NBA level ball handlers in preseason. I think when they get to the real games, like when you're playing Trae Young on opening night, you're gonna score 40 in a quarter if you do that, right? If you have 2 guys at half court and a third extended for that like steal when they get the swing 6 feet above the line, you're just giving up points. You're not going to get a steal on Trae Young doing that. So it was okay. It worked. I'm not expecting it to continue to work.
This was
exactly that setup.
Yeah. I don't think is that feasible. There's this thing with the Raptors where it's like a lot of it seems misaligned in some sense, right? Because the Raptors are a team, we talked about how much they need Sandro and how much they need Grady offensively to enhance or add advantage to a small advantage created. But these are the guys who are way out of sorts if you're asking them to be sometimes 2/3 of your 3-man press full.
Yeah.
Like the Raptors are still a young, unproven team, really, and Darko is still a kind of a hard ass coach in some sense, because he just puts guys in positions that they're like, he's not protecting anyone.
No,
he's never. The team does not play in a sense to protect anyone, and that's the most interesting aspect, and why I think this is the make or break year for Darko. Because when I look at everything he asks the Raptors to do, I'm like, yep, this is forward facing. This is kind of basketball theory. This is all that kind of stuff. But there is sometimes a real misalignment in who's on the roster. It's why when I was talking to Joe Mazzulla, I asked him, like, because Joe was talking about how the Celtics have to be different. Like, he changed a million different things because the team is different. And I asked him, like, how do you strike the balance between, accepting and adapting to successful emerging trends in the NBA, while also knowing when to ask your guys to play differently than they do to their detriment, or expecting them to improve? Like, how do you find that? And he was like, yeah, man, that's coaching. It's a hard question to answer, really. And how could you? And AISM says, how can you succeed if you're never put in a position to fail? Well, you're put in a position to fail all the time. They have long NBA careers coming up to this point. But Nikola Jokic doesn't always play at the level. Steph Curry did not guard the best player on the other team. The coach's job is to find the highest percentage where you have successful outcomes. And that's like in the past, this is the point we're making. He was asking guys to fail repeatedly. This year, it can't just be like, axe to the grindstone, fail, fail, fail. Everybody's learning. They're supposed to win. That means you have to put guys in positions to succeed where there's less of a chance of failure for them. And you need to organize that properly.
I think we'll see more of that. I think we'll see Darko coaching to the roster more this season. I think that blitzing will happen more when Jamal Shed and Jacoby and CMB are on the floor instead of Grady. I just, because last season, look, they wanted to lose. It helps to do that when you ask guys to do things they're not equipped for. Preseason, it doesn't matter if you win. I do think they'll play much more to their roster, especially as time goes on and they learn what works. I expect the defense to be better by January than it is in October. I think that this is that type of team where they'll learn each other. I do think the blitzing will work in circumstances. Jamal Shed has shown repeatedly that like the kinetic, energy transfer of like, if you run around like a madman, you can get the offense to do the same thing too. I mean, I wrote about that when I was the team writer for the Bucks in that series against the Pacers, where it was just who is going to determine pace. Because if you play slow on offense, guess what? That makes the other team play slower, play muddier on offense too. And when Shed is running around like crazy, he always draws that moving screen because the screener's trying to plant and get out of there faster. There are situations in which it will benefit them, but if you're running that scheme for 30 minutes a game, that's not going to work in the regular season of the NBA.
Actually, now this is very on brand for me, but I think Jacoby, Scotty, and CMB are much more important to press defense than Jamal. Jamal had a lot of trouble, man. Jamal had a lot of trouble there. He draws a couple of this moving screen stuff, but it's just the thing, right? Because playing full court press isn't always to create turnovers. Sometimes it's to input pace and really control, speed up, or depending on how you press, slow down. Change things, make them go from the other part of the floor. Joseph says, "Here we go again, Samson." That's funny. Defensively, they were 14th last year by end of the season. Caitlin gave me a great stat when we did our podcast, and she said that they ranked 20th in the NBA against good offenses when Scotty Barnes was healthy and on the roster. So, of course, some of their defense last year was like, well, their best defender wasn't playing at the front end of the season when the schedule was hardest. And some of it is like, well, Davion Mitchell was obviously a great defender and fit the scheme, but he left. And a lot of it points towards they played bad teams, they upped the ante and the pressure, and it worked really well for them towards the back end of the season. They finished 14th. Just based on, if you're not looking at the context of it, you would think this Raptors team is ready to be incredible defensively. But I don't feel that way necessarily. Actually, I don't feel that way at all. No necessarily involved.
Yeah, I think 14th isn't crazy. It may be on the high end of where they might be this season.
14th isn't crazy, but I don't think they'll be top 10.
I see situations where they end up there, but not a likely one. A lot has to go right there. I think Quickly's defense, I was really impressed with Quickly. I think he made strides, not in every area, not in the half court, but he did force turnovers where he, forced negative dribbles and the second guy in got the steal with that full court pressure. There are pathways, but it's just Scotty Barnes. When Scotty Barnes is on the floor, their defense will be amazing. If they can build everything around that, you're cooking, If they can find ways to be successful when Scotty's on the bench. Like, then you're really talking about strong defense. But Barnes is the type of defensive player that really, really will move mountains. Just really incredible defensive performance. Not just on himself, but on like the full rotation, the full roster. And that you can get to 14th with that. Like, you can get maybe to 10th with that,
Yeah. 14th wouldn't surprise me. But I was speaking to is that they were like top 6 for the last 2.5, 3 months of the season, and that would surprise me a lot.
Yes.
And like as you said, when Scotty's on the floor, their defense is significantly elevated. That's why that Caitlin stat that she gave me from Second Spectrum was so good. That they were still bottom 11 in the league when he was healthy against good offenses.
Yeah.
But everyone is worse against good offenses. It bears repeating right now that Scotty, over the past 2 years of his career, the Raptors have been better at forcing misses, forcing worse shots, turning teams over, rebounding the basketball, and fouling less. And in preseason, despite being clearly limited, and the offensive process was abhorrent, he was good defensively, and he both overwhelmed and created defensive playmaking opportunities, and somehow was in positions to be the backline and save guys. It was really impressive.
Yeah.
Basketball. Is there anything else we're missing? Cosmo says, any news on the CMB injury? Also, Vegan Grass asked earlier if CMB was hitting contested shots in warm-ups. He hits contested shots every warm-ups. He's an NBA player. The game is tough, man. And the news on the injury, it was a forearm strain.
Yeah, day to day.
Yeah.
Darko was saying last night he really doesn't think it's anything serious. Expect him back momentarily. It seemed like it'll be opening night. And then PR followed up after Darko left, saying it was a forearm muscle strain.
Yeah. AG says turnovers are super valuable. It's equivalent to guaranteeing a miss and grabbing the defensive rebound. Plus, it has offensive benefits. This is true, but also, if I can be hyper specific, it's not guaranteed to be a winner, because Gary Trent Jr., they decided that defense was not what they wanted, and it's because there's proprietary stats that said his gambles were some of the most costly in the whole NBA, and you're really getting 2 possessions a game. Gambles might get up towards 8, 9, 10. And the Indiana Pacers last year were 30th in the NBA in allowing rim pressure and rim finishing. And you need to have people to step in. You have to have people who can protect against gambling. The Miles Turner on the floor without Pascal Siakam, the worst pick and roll defense in the league. With Pascal Siakam, top 5 in the NBA. You need a guy to put out fires. So turnovers are a lot more valuable when Scotty's on the floor because he's putting out fires. And I hope that CMB and Mobo, probably to a lesser extent, can do a similar thing. But the Raptors, they've got questions, man. But they want to win. That's meaningful to me.
I'm just so ready to watch them try to win. And, last night, Ingram, ice in the game. Both teams were trying, both teams were treating that as a real game, trying to get ready, play your rotations. Hitting that icing 3, tie game, less than a minute left. It's that's meaningful to me, to have a guy that can do that. It's been a long time. I think, just if we do the numbers, let's say they're 18th on offense, 13th on defense. You can be an okay team there, right? We can get some playoff games with that. It's I'm ready for a team that wants to win, with guys that are playing, trying to win, with fans that are tuning in. I'm ready for what this season's going to bring. Writing about losses, I can live with writing about losses when they try to win. A loss when you try to win is a real thing. It matters. There's something there that can build into our job. Writing about losses when you're trying to lose is one of the most soul-crushing activities. It's hard.
Well, because a lot of what no takeaway is valid. That's what you're taught, right? You say something or you critique something, and people say, "Why are you critiquing this?" They're trying to lose, and then you go like,
Yeah.
"Oh, is just my job pointless?" But there's
Yes.
still, but the thing is, like thousands and thousands of people tune in to tell you shouldn't be talking about it. It's like, so what do you discuss? What is important and what isn't? Are the Raptors going to be a team that plays X or Y? The play style has been informative and predictive, but the effort isn't, quote unquote. The
Yeah.
outcome isn't, quote unquote. Like, what is, how do you strike that balance?
And I'm excited to not have to.
Yeah. Yeah, if they play bad, they play bad. They got to wear it. Last year, if they
Yeah.
play bad, it's good, and they don't have to wear it. This is,
One of my favorite series of pieces I wrote, it was this autopsy report where I started it in the playoffs against the Sixers, and it was like so dumb. It's like a murder mystery thing where
yeah.
What happened to the body. I had fun with those. It's when I was writing a like a little murder mystery novel, and in prep I was immersed in all this. I was just reading a ton of like Raymond Chandler and the Maltese Falcon and all these books, and so it was sort of bleeding into my mind. And you can do fun stuff when a team is trying to win, whether they win or lose. I'm just going to enjoy this job so much. Like this podcast, it's going to be really enjoyable to talk about the Raptors when they win. I'm going to love that with you, and there's going to be plenty of it. And I'm also going to love these podcasts when they lose. We can say, look, they tried this, it didn't work. This matters. It's just the job is much more self-evident. I'm really looking forward to doing this with you, which I've seen zero suggestions for names for this podcast from anyone.
Oh yeah, we didn't put it out. We said it at the front end, but that's when people are just coming in. I don't know what the actual numbers are. There's 137 people watching on YouTube. It says 230 on Twitter. So at 367 people, I would love to have insights. It's myself and Louis. What do you think the name of this podcast should be? Also in the comments, after we're done the live, I would love to know what people think this podcast should be. It obviously can't be the pull-up tray. You're not Trey. And
I can be your Trey, baby.
Channel says bald don't lie. That would be so funny, man. That's such a funny name. Oh my God. Bald don't lie. Vegan Grass says bald boys basketball pod.
It's just all bald jokes.
GP
We never should
says
have asked
two
these
bald
people.
men. Oh, Ian says our basketball, a callback to minute or minute basketball. Oh man, this is really funny. These are very funny names. Listen, I will introduce. I don't think that's the actual name we will pick because we probably have to get advertisers on this at some point. But I might introduce every podcast as the bald don't lie. That's so funny. Two bald dudes, one basketball. Louis, is there anything you want to say before we get out of here? We have a lot to chew on here.
Yeah, we got some thinking to do about our lives, about our choices, about the trips we may take to Turkey. Who knows?
Exactly.
No, man, I'm really happy that we get to do. I've been working with you actively. When we did Minute Basketball, really really enjoyable. We've been working beside each other, but not like together for a while. I'm so happy we get to do this. This is going to be an absolute blast.
Yeah, this one, I said I would structure it, but I didn't structure it very well. I think this will serve very well every 2 weeks as, you say like the autopsy and you say like, what happened to the body, the murder mystery. I would love if actually, I'm just thinking of this now, if it was your job to structure these and we tried to solve something every 2 weeks, a trend that's been happening with the Raptors. I think that's probably a great. And then, of course, these are live podcasts. We got to respond to people and say hi and connect. But that's probably a great way to do this podcast. Is
Love
just
that.
really try and figure something out.
I will ask you the dumbest question every week, and you will find an hour worth of answers.
No, we need more of you talking. People are going to be hearing a lot of me this year. 2, would it be 3 podcasts a week? That's a lot of talking, man. It's maybe too much. I don't know how the people who talk every day. How do you have that many opinions about things? Blows my mind.
That's how you become a bad person, because you just need more opinions.
Yeah, that's true. Or you just start borrowing opinions, and then
That's right.
like there's the natural osmosis of like, oh, my opinion has changed over time. I've taken in information, but when you have to do it every day, I think you just start taking them.
Yeah. I mean, that's as the beat guys, our opinions inform national media when they talk about the Raptors.
Yeah. Joseph
Not
says
you, me personally, just like beat.
Yeah. Joseph says this is the start of Samson's villain arc. Cosmo says 3 podcasts, Thursday, Saturday, and Tuesdays. Myself and Trey are twice a week. Myself and Lewis are twice a month. And then I'll have twice a month. It'll be me and maybe a guest, or just me doing like a film breakdown. ND says, Samson, they put you through the ringer, but you're really enjoyable to listen to, so I don't mind it. Hell yeah, dude. Listen, man, it's just basketball at the end of the day. And whether or not we're right or wrong about basketball, I hope that the takeaway, and I think this is generally the takeaway from Lewis and I conversations, just 2 curious guys trying to figure it out. It's not ego, or it's not super toxic or anything like that. AI Sam says, did opinion pieces replace real journalism? Yeah. Hell yeah. Big time they did. Okay, Lewis, you close out the show. I'm just reading comments and talking.
So thank you all so much. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do this without people being here and asking us to do this and being kind. Truly, it means the world. Like the fact that people are kind and listen to us is everything. So thank you all so much for being here. Whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a terrific day. Have a bald day.
Ask them to subscribe and like and all that stuff.
Yeah. What are the words? Like, hold on. Like, comment, and subscribe.
There's a 4th one now. It's called hype. You can hype videos.
Okay, I'm not doing that. Like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate you all so much. Truly, thank you. And have a blessed day, and goodbye.